Eskom Intelligence Files. Introduction. The phrase, Eskom Intelligence Files, evokes both intrigue and controversy, a narrative of secret investigations, claims of organized crime syndicates, high-level political involvement, and an embattled national power utility at the center of South Africa's most complex state capture controversies. Over the past decade, Eskom has been mired in escalating load shedding, financial strain, corruption scandals, and failed governance. Intelligence, in its formal and informal senses, has emerged as a contested terrain in this story. Who gathers it, why, with what evidence, and to what end? This essay examines the emergence and legacy of these so-called intelligence files, situating them against a backdrop of media scrutiny, parliamentary oversight, legal investigation, and public debate. Origins of intelligence efforts at Eskom. The notion that Eskom required dedicated intelligence capabilities did not arise in a vacuum. By the early 2020s, Eskom was widely understood to be afflicted by deep corruption and malfunctioning internal processes that weakened South Africa's electricity supply and governance. Former Eskom chair Malegapuru Makgoba later testified that the idea of intelligence gathering was raised by public enterprises, Minister Pravin Gordhan, precisely because the usual law enforcement agencies seemed asleep to acts of corruption and sabotage within Eskom, driving the insistence that Eskom had to gather some intelligence somehow. Frustrated with the pace of conventional investigations, former Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter commissioned an intelligence-driven, privately funded investigation in 2021, reportedly costing approximately R50 million funded by a business consortium. This operation aimed to expose organized criminal activity and corruption networks linked to Eskom contracts and internal sabotage. These efforts were carried out by George Vivanzik and Risk, GFFR, with leadership from former security operatives. The result was a set of intelligence documents and organizational diagrams alleging several crime cartels, including purported links to senior politicians. However, the origin, methodology, and evidentiary basis of these files would soon become subjects of intense debate and skepticism. Media exposure and journalistic scrutiny. When details of the intelligence operation began to leak into the media in 2022 and early 2023, they dominated national discourse. Major outlets covered organograms and unverified claims of cartels, allegedly connected to influential figures such as former Deputy President and Minister of Energy.
Wanton corruption, unbridled criminality, misconduct, and neglect. The national power utility is on its knees. Eskom CEO Andre de Ruyter steps down, saying the job has become untenable. President Cyril Ramaphosa declares a state of disaster.
The energy crisis is an existential threat to our economy and to the social fabric of our country.
Then comes an explosive interview.
We know of at least 4 organized crime cartels operating in Mpumalanga in Eskom. There was one particular high-level politician that was involved in this.
A media frenzy follows. It's reported his allegations are based on secret intelligence reports.
We've also had sight of these reports. We were also briefed in a confidential meeting. We also spent months interrogating their contents.
The reports, issued monthly, detail an elaborate organogram. Heading the operation is a top politician. He's labeled the territorial ruler. There's a henchman, a feared murder squad, a propaganda machine, a confidant of principals, a list of high-ranking corrupt cops, and also a prominent minister linked to one of 4 criminal syndicates called cartels. Of privately funded operatives infiltrated Eskom using a network of secret alleged criminals, even though many are named in the intelligence documents, and we know why.
These are not the Gupta leaks. They're not the Panama Papers. Those had times, places, dates, names, hard evidence. Sure, people are mentioned here, but nothing you can prove. No dots that you can connect.
They're using the word intelligence very loosely, but there's a vast difference between intelligence stroke information and actual evidence.
So that's
Is there anything here that is a lead that could become prosecutable?
From what I'm seeing, there's absolutely nothing at this juncture that is prosecutable. Until such a time that it gets converted to actual evidence, affidavits, forensic reports, communication analysis, Section 204 statements, 252 operations in terms of the Act. Until such a time that those documents are not contained in a docket, it is what it is, just information.
some action could and should have been taken sooner. The police had knowledge of these reports.
Yet, as investigative journalists noted, the so-called intelligence reports lacked core source documentation, bank records, contracts, or verifiable evidentiary trails that would be required to substantiate such serious allegations. News 24, which had early access to parts of the reports, ultimately decided not to publish investigative exposes based on them because the evidence did not meet rigorous journalistic standards. The files consisted largely of uncorroborated assertions without traceable supporting data. Journalists also flagged concerns about the character and background of those involved in compiling the reports, including figures linked to South Africa's apartheid security apparatus, raising ethical and credibility questions. Parliamentary Oversight and the CU Review. Parliamentary committees took keen interest in intelligence documentation related to Eskom. The Standing Committee on Public Accounts, SCOPA, welcomed the Special Investigating Unit's, CU, swift acquisition of the full intelligence report, thousands of pages with multiple sub-reports, in mid-2023. The CU undertook to subject the material to formal investigative methodologies, discerning which parts merited further action and which did not. The SIU's engagement was not merely procedural. It sought to determine both the substance of the intelligence and the legitimacy of how it was commissioned. As the CU briefed Parliament in 2025, its findings from ongoing investigations have been presented to committees and pave the way for civil litigation and criminal referrals, highlighting procurement failures, conflicts of interest, and maladministration within Eskom. Simultaneously, broader statutory inquiries, notably the Commission of Inquiry into Allegations of State Capture, Zondo Commission, incorporated Eskom's governance failings into a wider investigation of systemic corruption across state-owned enterprises. The Zondo Commission detailed state capture abuses and recommended law enforcement follow-up across institutions including Eskom, corruption, mismanagement, and law enforcement action. Beyond intelligence files per se, Tangible investigations have led to arrests and legal actions. In 2025, coordinated intelligence-driven operations involving NAT joints, the National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structure, resulted in the arrest of individuals linked to fraudulent procurement practices at Kussel Power Station, a stark reminder of how corruption can materially harm Eskom's mandate. Broader CU investigations have also uncovered schemes involving internal procurement manipulation, conflicts of interest by thousands of employees, and over 1 billion rands in siphoned state resources. Additionally, the CU has undertaken asset preservation actions against individuals implicated in corruption with Eskom tenders. Critical reflection: intelligence versus evidence. At the heart of the Eskom intelligence files debate is the tension between intelligence gathering and verifiable evidence. Intelligence, by definition, often involves classified, fragmentary, or inferential data. But when used to publicly accuse individuals or assert political conspiracy without transparent sourcing, it risks misinformation and reputational harm. Journalistic and parliamentary skeptics pointed out that the files de-emphasized robust evidence in favor of sensationalized networks. Such methods complicated legal scrutiny, constrained prosecutorial action, and contributed to polarized public opinion about corruption at Eskom. This controversy underscored a broader principle: intelligence can guide investigations, but it cannot replace concrete evidence, especially in a society governed by due process and accountable institutions. Conclusion: the Eskom intelligence files story, spanning private investigations, parliamentary scrutiny, intensive media coverage, and ongoing legal inquiry, reflects both the desperation to address corruption at South Africa's most critical state utility and the perils of unverified intelligence operating in the public sphere. Although the files themselves did not yield decisive prosecutorial breakthroughs, they sparked vital national conversations about accountability, institutional reliability, and the rule of law. What endures is not simply a set of controversial documents, but a broader determination across Parliament, law enforcement, and civil society to confront corruption, strengthen governance, and protect the public interest in a sector whose stability is essential to the nation's economic future.